Okay, so on this astrophotography setup here, I have writing at the top a tiny control center. This is the Toptech StellaVita, which I've already shown and reviewed on the channel, and I personally really liked this little device because it's something that's very similar to the ASIAIR, but it supports other stuff than ZW. So in this case, it's connected to Toptech cameras, but it's also connected to ZW focuser. I've also used it with various equipment from other manufacturers, and it just works across multiple manufacturers. And the biggest weakness has been that I would say the Wi-Fi is not very strong with this. You also need to sacrifice one of the USB ports if you want to be able to use station mode, where basically you have this guy connect to your home Wi-Fi and then you can connect to it if your smartphone is also connected to your home Wi-Fi. Otherwise, you don't need the little additional USB adapter. You can just use the internal Wi-Fi, connect to the hotspot that is created by the StellaVita, and then control it from your smartphone via an app. Okay, so there's this issue, and then there was another issue, is that the software was still a bit, well, not so advanced and not as sexy as the ASIAIR software. The app not as intuitive and not as many features either, lacking of an atlas, that kind of stuff. But today, this has changed because we have a completely overhauled app to control the StellaVita. It's the StellaVita 2.0 app, and I want to show you the very large enhancements that have been done, both in terms of pure interface, but also in terms of features. But because it's very cold here, I want to go inside and show you the new features. I've also done several nights of imaging with the new version, and one of them I actually recorded all of my steps from autofocus to polar alignment and of course capture, planning, etc. So I'll show you that as well. But for now, let's have a first look at the app itself when you connect to it to prepare for a new session, how you connect to the equipment, how you use it, etc. A quick guided tour, if you will. So let's quickly go and have a look. Okay, so now I'm on my computer and I'll be using an Android emulator to show you the way around the app so that you can follow my mouse cursor, so it makes things a bit easier to follow. And currently on my PC, if I look at my network options, I'm connected to my home network, right? And the StellaVita is connected to the same home network over Wi-Fi, and that means that I'll be able to see the StellaVita directly. So this is the station mode that's enabled by having one USB port sacrificed for a second Wi-Fi adapter. And then you can see there's actually the Wi-Fi network, the hotspot, that is being emitted by the StellaVita itself. We're 2 floors down actually, and it is quite strong. It's very interesting. I find the StellaVita hotspot strength seems to have increased with the software update. I'm not sure if it's true, but I have a very high quality, and even if I connect only to it, I have really good connectivity. So I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe they made some improvements there, but it's still not as good as something like the ASIAIR Mini, for instance. But still, I think it's slightly better, which is good, but this is a subjective assessment. Anyway, we have our network setup correct. So now what I can do is I will launch the app. So there it is, StellaVita. We're going to connect to StellaVita, and you can see it connected automatically. We have the connectivity icon here, and you can see the interface has changed quite a lot since last time. And the first thing that I would normally do is go to the icon here in the top right, so this guy here, and that's where we can choose the equipment that we want to connect. And this is pretty simple, right? We don't have a lot of equipment that's available, just the main pieces of equipment. And for me, it's an on-step mount. I'm not sure if the mount itself actually turned on, so I might not be able to connect to it. Oh yeah, it is turned on, okay. So I was able to connect to it. Then we have the cameras, and the cameras are auto-detected. So there's 2 cameras connected to my setup, so they're under available devices. And we have my main camera, which is a full frame camera from Toptech, and we have my guide camera, which is the 462M here. By the way, for the mount, if I disconnect it, you can see you can choose a mount from the list of mounts. The SAL33, which I'm using, doesn't have its own kind of driver, which is why I'm using LX200 on-step, which is the default driver for on-step mounts. Okay, let's reconnect to the mount. We can connect to the camera. We can connect to the guide camera. Again, similar deal, right? And then we can connect to the filter wheel, except I don't have a filter wheel. But if you know my videos about N.I.N.A, I like to have a manual filter wheel in the software. That where I can tag my exposures and my flats with the filter names, that when I stack everything in PixInsight together, PixInsight is able to match the lights of one filter to the corresponding flats of the same filter. It's super convenient, and I don't believe this is possible in the ASIAIR, and that gets on my nerves every time to not be able to do that. So I'm happy that this is available in the StellaVita. And then there's the focuser selection. Again, you have a list of focusers in there. Do they have Astro Oasis, by the way? Because that's one of the stuff that I really like. Oh no, they have it here, the Oasis focuser. So it would be supported. I haven't tested it with it, but I have tested it with my Gemini focuser, and that works fine with the Gemini EF driver. So everything, a lot of equipment is available for you to connect, unlike something like the ASIAIR. Of course, you can, instead of doing one by one, you can disconnect everything and connect everything with those top buttons. Now we have everything connected, which means we have access to all of the features to prepare ourselves for capturing, etc. So on the right hand side, there's the standard gain here, the exposure time, and you can look at the pictures that you've taken. For now, there's nothing in the file browser, and you can also take a new picture here for a preview. Here to be 5 seconds. One thing that actually kind of threw me for a loop is that, okay, I wanted to select a time, so that's fine. I can scroll through, select a single time, and then I wanted to go back to the main capture button, right? And I was clicking around, and I wasn't finding any way to do it, but you just need to re-click or tap, in our case, on that button. So I could say, let's say, take a 5-second exposures at gain, I think it's 100, there it is. And then it's just taking the frame, which for us will be more or less a dark frame, right, in this particular case. It's downloading. On my smartphone, I typically see speeds of around 4 to 5 megabytes a second. On this PC, it's much faster. So very interesting to see that from my PC, things seem to be much, much faster than on my smartphone connected to the same network over a very strong Wi-Fi signal. So anyway, here it is, we've taken exposure. And what I really like with the new version is that you have all of the equipment settings available via this little arrow on the side, right? So everything's there. We have a star library where you have target stuff with a little tutorial there. So you could search for like tonight's best and go for it. That said, there is an improvement to be done. I'll show you in a moment. You have the history as well. No history in this on this particular app because that's a desktop app. Messier object, solar system object. That said, if I search, if I press on search and I want to try like Pleiades, doesn't find it. This is the same issue that ZW had when they first released the ASIAIR. You couldn't search by common name. You had to search by the actual Messier name in there, right? So it's a bit more cumbersome. So in tonight's best, the Pleiades is probably not there, but you can see all of the names are just like the IC stuff, etc. Under Messier objects there, you don't have like the common names. I'm not sure if Andromeda would even work. Yeah, you see, Andromeda doesn't work, right? So this is exactly what ZW had as an issue before, but of course, this is something that can be fixed. Okay, and then you have the usual stuff with all of your information, like slew, home, park. This is on the mount section. We have all of the information about the mount here. And then if you scroll down, you can see that it actually moves around between the pieces of equipment there. You can also click for quick access, but if you scroll down, you'll be able to have all of the information about the main camera. It's on the 264 millimeters. It's at bid 1 high conversion gain mode because it's a top tech camera. I have direct access to it. Offsets of 100, and yes, I do want to turn on the thermoelectric cooling as well as the anti-dew system. So they're available with quick access. And then we have the same thing with the guide camera. Do we want to dither? And the dither options, you have to go into the advanced settings. I'll show you that in a moment. And then filter wheel, I can quickly change my filter and say that actually I'm not using my luminance filter right now. I'm using my hydrogen HOO filter, basically, from Altair Astro, which is actually the case. And that's a manual filter wheel, so I don't care about anything else. I just want to have my files include the filter information in there, and that is what the manual filter wheel lets me do, and I really enjoy having that. Then there's the focuser stuff with the autofocus information. You have the backlash amount, which is overshoot type of backlash. You have the step size, and everything works fine as far as I can tell. And then you have the coarse focus and fine focus for your manual focus changes. So that's like the quick access settings and functions when you click on that arrow, compared to like if you go to the settings themselves, then you'll start seeing more information in there. I can start the tracking. You can do that also in the mount menu. I'll show you in a moment. And you have more information in there. For instance, like, do you want, when you say that you want to slew to M31, to always slew and center, like the ASIAIR does, or do you want to be asked each time? Do you want to only slew, or do you want to slew and center? And I have some cases where I don't want to center if I'm testing things during the day, etc. So it's kind of nice to have. The gain for plate solving, right? This is very interesting that you have separate gain, and then you have the gain to plate solve, and that's also a very nice little thing to have. You can set different gain and exposure time for plate solving, but also for focusing, including depending on the filter. And that's where, again, a manual filter wheel makes a lot of sense. If I keep scrolling down, we have the meridian flip information, which, because I'm using on-step mount, I want to reverse the deck output after the flip. Just like the ASIAIR, this forces me to pause before the meridian, then wait through the meridian without imaging, and afterwards do the flip 5 minutes after meridian. So that's not optimal, but okay, we'll take it. And then you have a red herring advanced settings. The feature is not available yet, and that's for everything. So, but I hope we get more stuff in the future there. Main camera is the same story. Now you have the gain for the main exposures that you're going to take, the default exposure time when you click the little preview button, and all of the information that we have, and that's for the camera itself, right? The tech is currently on. Everything is in progress. We have the anti-dew strength that can be chosen. Let's say for me, I don't need the level 5, I just need level 1. And you also have like a recapture option in case of failure of the frame. I think that's a good idea to have. And there are red herring as well, the advanced features. Let's go to the guide camera. It's very much the same stuff here. We have the guiding parameters in here. What I would love to see is in those advanced settings, once they're created, is the ability to have PPEC, predictive periodic error correction from PhD2 in here. That would be amazing to have, but it's not there yet. You can change your calibration step, and you can change your dither interval in terms of frame, and the dither distance. Again, this is following the ASIAIR system. You have one dither interval regardless of what imaging you do, which is annoying. I want to be able to set that per, let's say, filter, because then I could say for luminance, because I know that with luminance filter I'm probably going to take 30 seconds, 60-second exposures, I want to dither every 5 frames or 10 frames, right? But for HA oxygen 3, then I want to dither every single frame because I know I'm going to take 5 minutes exposures, right? Having a global setting here is a bit annoying. I wish we could change that more granularly, but this is the same as the ASIAIR, so I can't really complain too much. It's still, N.I.N.A is a bit better. By the way, here, this is a Raspberry Pi. It's running Linux. N.I.N.A is on it, and I can control it via smartphone. This is going to be for another video, so stay subscribed so you don't miss it. Anyway, again, our red herring at the bottom, and we have the same kind of stuff for the filter wheel, but with something that I really like is those exposure times for autofocus here in terms of 3 seconds or 7 seconds for H-alpha oxygen 3, but 3 seconds for luminance. I really like this. And I'm actually not sure, but these settings on the filter wheel might also override the plate solving exposure time. So I'm not sure. TopeTech, let us know if that's the case, but this is really good to have. Anyway, going to the focuser here, we have the standard settings in there, and we also have, again, the default exposure time and gain for the focus. So that really allows you to change that granularly, and I really like that. And then you have stuff for the manual focus, like do you want to have backlash compensation for manual focus? That's fine. Do you want the focuser to beep? And then advanced settings. And finally, we have StellaVita. That's where you can control the power plugs, turn them on and off, and you can change the name of the stuff, but it's only a series of name instead of something that you could change manually. So let's say this guy is my focuser, but see what's missing in there? Like flat panel, for instance. That kind of stuff. It would be nice if I was able to input that manually as free text. But okay, it's still better than nothing. You can see that my first port is on my main camera. Second port, I'm powering the mount. I've set up the SAL33 to use lower voltage because it has very low load right now, and that works perfectly fine. Then we have the internal storage, file browser, all this kind of stuff. What is kind of important is to check the Wi-Fi. If you're on the wireless bridge, you can go in there and click on the information and check the IP address, because that's one of the better ways to get images off of the StellaVita if you haven't saved your images on an SD card. If you save it in the internal memory, going through the network to access all of those files is much better via the network. It works very well. As of this update, I don't think the USB-C port on the StellaVita is usable for file transfer. So that's a bit of a bummer. So yeah, let's keep that in mind. And I'll show you right now how you can access it. On a Windows PC, it would be like / the IP, which was 192.168.0.2.113. Because I'm on a different OS, I'll be 192.168 with .0.213. It might ask you for a username and password. The username is AS, and the password is AstroStation, all in lowercase. And then you have access, oh, there it is, AS, and then we have AstroStation is here, actually. And then we click OK to have access to everything, and we indeed have access to everything, and we can copy paste. And from a PC, it's actually super fast, so I don't have any issues there. So that's like the overall settings, and I think already, especially with this little guy here, we get a lot of improvement compared to the previous version. And then there's some more stuff, right? There's the mountless little widget there with polar alignment, and I'll show you a bit later how the polar alignment looks like because I took recordings of that. You can turn the tracking on and off for the mount here, right? So I'm turning it off immediately because I don't want the mount to move too much. You can select a target to slew to. You can change the speed. You can move the mount. You can do everything from there. You have a little focuser widget as well, and you can trigger the autofocus by clicking on that AF button there, or move it manually here. And you have things like guiding as well. And this immediately takes the guide camera and sets it on a loop. Right now, my off-axis guider doesn't see any light, so it's almost like a dark frame. But you can easily recalibrate. You can change everything, and it works very, very well in my experience up to now. One thing I like about the guiding is you can actually zoom into the guide image, which you cannot do in the ASIAIR, which annoys me a lot because it makes focusing sharply on your guide scope or off-axis guider more difficult than it should be. So I really like that you can actually zoom in there. So, and then we also have the atlas, and we have a little tutorial there, and this is good. And you'll see that this is like the default orientation of your field of view. The moment you slew and center, the angle of that thing gets corrected and to your actual angle, and that's awesome. That works really well, and you can choose your targets. You can say like, okay, I want Andromeda galaxy here. I want to frame it like that. You can change your framing. Slew to, you can add that to a sequence. So for your plans, and there it is. I have Andromeda kind of framed this way, and it's ready in my sequence. So this is putting us really on par with something like the ASIAIR. I don't think there is multiple. Oh yeah, there I can actually adjust a bit more with images my framing. So let me add it again, but with a better framing. So this really gets us quite on par with the ASIAIR, although as far as I know there is no mosaic mode available in here yet. Still, it's a big step forward in terms of software. And you can make this smaller or bigger, it's kind of cute. You also have widgets for guiding here, and you can look at the guide graph, but you can also choose to have the star N.I.N.A, the star signals to noise ratio, the star mass, they will appear on the graph. I'll show you that in a bit later on real data. And then you have the scatter diagram instead of the guide graph if you want, and you can start guiding, clear the graph. It's honestly pretty well thought out, and I really like that this is available at all times as well. And you have things like the histogram, very standard stuff, crosshair on your image, star detection. I'm not going to do that, otherwise it's going to try on a dark frame. But you can see it's pretty full-featured now compared to before. Then we have the plan. I'm going to disable crosshair here. And on the plan section, you have record as well, by the way, for videos. I haven't tested that because that's not my main occupation, but it's there. And the plan thing is where I can go and click on this capture plan here, and I can configure everything. So let's have a look. We have two targets, right? Because I just added them from the atlas. But I want to delete the one on the left because we already know I don't want it. It was with the wrong framing, so I'm just gonna swipe to the left there and delete it. So now we only have one target left. And if I click on it or tap on it, I would have all of the details. I have the target RA. I have, do I want to slew the target? Yes. I want to auto center? Yes. I want to start guiding? Yes. I want to autofocus on start? Yes. I want to autofocus every 60 seconds. I think this wasn't available before, so this is really nice to see. And because I'm using an off-axis guider, I want to stop guiding during autofocus. So we get all of the good stuff in here available directly. And besides those options, we can go into the task and tell it what we want to do. So I go into task, I click on plus, and I say, okay, we want light frames, and we want, let's say, a total of, I don't know, 36 light frames of, yeah, the gain is fine, but 300 seconds, right? And here we go. We want this filter, and that's fine. I could add flat frames, dark frames, bias frames. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can see the way that this can work. And just like before, you can remove steps by sliding or swiping to the left and then deleting things. And now we're starting to have a sequence that's starting to make sense, right? And then we have overall settings here on the top where I can set a start time, an end time, which can be good for astronomical dusk, darkness, and dawn, right? And I want to park upon finish, turn off the thermal electric cooling upon finish, and let's say shut down the StellaVita upon finish. And there we have all of the options that are visible in there. And then start capture, and it will start everything, and it just works. So I've done several nights like that, and I've had no issues whatsoever. You can also, when you're in the plan section, click on that button, and it will start, and we'll see everything going on in real time. Okay, but I do want to turn off the thermal electric cooling on my camera and the anti-dew because it's under a cover right now, so I don't want it to get too crazy. But that's the gist of things. But with that, let's also have a look at some steps from an actual imaging night that I recorded for your viewing pleasure. Okay, so we're looking at a recording from a night of imaging. So first here I was connecting the equipment just like we did right now. And afterwards taking a quick exposure to see what's going on, is my focus okay. So take this exposure. We can see the stars once the exposure is taken. As you can see from my smartphone, the download speed was a bit slower, much slower than, it's the same camera, right? But it was much faster from my PC. So I think I'll be controlling the StellaVita if I'm at home from my PC going forward. And we zoom in, we're not quite in focus. So I think it's a good time to start autofocus. I open this and I'll tap on autofocus and the autofocus gets started. It's basically a one-pass parabolic autofocus, which is fairly decent. So we'll see it evolve. It goes through the stars. Unfortunately, you can see I had the filter in my manual filter wheel set to L. So I was only taking 3-second exposures when I wanted to take 7-second exposures. That's operator error. But it is what it is. So we don't get like a perfect curve, but it was good enough to get us a really good focus anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So there it is. We have the autofocus successful, and I take a frame to make sure that everything is fine. And there it is. It is perfectly focused. We're good. So we're good to go, right? Also, you can see that I will have realized my mistake. So I go into the settings, And I make sure that under filter wheel I select the correct filter. That way, going forward, I'll have the right exposure times for the autofocus. Then it's time to do polar alignment with the mount. So with that, I go into mount, and then this polar alignment there, I tap, and then it's very, very similar to the ZW ASIAIR, except that it's actually closer to N.I.N.A 3-point polar alignment, because while the ASIAIR takes only 2 points, the AstroStation takes 3, just like the N.I.N.A algorithm. So I just, let it do its thing. It's now running on its own. The mount is moving. It's just doing the standard polar alignment as usual. Let's see, frame 1, frame 2, then the mount is moving, and then frame 3 is successful, and we get the result here. You see that it was very off in azimuth, but very close in altitude. So then it was just manually moving things around, and each time you click on refresh to get the updated position. So I clicked on refresh once, it takes the image, it plate solves the image in a moment. Let's see, come on, you can do it. There it is, plate solving, and you see it's updated there. So I still need to go for some more. I won't bore you with the details. You can see I'm now at 12 arc minutes. And then after a while, waiting for the newest result to update, we get to a decent polar alignment. Wait for it. There it is, decent polar alignment. So I validate, and this is a very smooth experience, very similar to N.I.N.A's, to ZW's. There's no issue whatsoever. It just works and it's very convenient to have. Then I spent some time setting up a plan, right, for the evening for IC405, the Flaming Star Nebula, right? It's exactly what we did right now. So there's really no change there. Then this is the atlas I wanted to test a bit, like the SLU2 feature of the atlas, right? So you can see that I can search for my object, and for me, so I searched for IC405 because I wanted to see if it was going to work. And with IC405, we can SLU2, and then we have the option from SLU2 and center. That's what we did, and then we get this mount is moving kind of message here with the movement of our field of view to the target that we have here in Auriga. So as it slews, it gets closer and closer, then on target almost, and then it's going to center the target, right? So it captures the image, it will plate solving and wait for it once it plate solves. So plate solving, and we'll see, keep your eyes on the rectangles. And suddenly the orientation of those rectangles has been corrected to your true orientation, right? So it's doing the centering exactly as needed and very close to something like the ASIAIR. So really some good improvements to really catch up with the leader in the field while offering additional features, additional equipment support, etc. Okay, but what about guiding? Let's go to guiding. And you can see we're in the guiding interface. Immediately clicked on recalibrate, and now it's just recalibrating there. Don't need to do anything, I just wait for it. It's very similar to the ASIAIR. There's no mystery there. It just kind of works on its own. And once the calibration is done, we have the usual little guiding jitters at the start, but you can see we have the guide chart. I can change the aggressiveness. I can play with things. And unlike the old version, now the spikes for RA are in the correct direction. So this is good. They fixed a little bug there. But we have our guiding going and working. And we have the star profile, just like in the ASIAIR. If I were to click on this scatter diagram there, we can see the scatter plot as well, which is nice to see that it's all very much in the center, despite a not so great RMS number. It was very, very windy. Yeah, this is like the gist of it. Afterwards, I wanted to really get into the plan, right? So we're in plan mode. I want to start the plan. So to start the plan, I just need to click that large button there. I don't know how to click, so there it is. Now it is. And then we get the standard stuff of auto-centering. And because in my sequence I have autofocus on start, even though we just did autofocus, it will re-autofocus. And this is one of the aspects that I really don't like with the Toptech StellaVita. As you can see, it's autofocusing right now, but instead of giving me a nice little autofocus curve, just like we did with manual autofocus, it's just telling me the numbers there. So if I wanted to see what my curve was, I would need to be taking notes, putting that into Excel, and then drawing a chart. Come on, maybe if I clicked, no, focus is not available there, right? So I don't think there's any way to get a focus curve at the start of a plan, but I would really love to see one. Uh, because I like to monitor what's going on, right? To know if my autofocus is going to fail or not, so I can take action quickly. Anyway, our autofocus is done. Because it takes time to kind of load the last image after autofocus, you might panic a little bit, like really, is it really autofocused? Because we haven't seen the curve, but yes, we saw stars very briefly there. Then it's starting the guiding, and I'm just verifying that the guiding is started, and it is indeed started without any issues, and we can keep track of the total error, which again, a lot of wind. It was a strong wind, but the scatter graph is pretty decent nonetheless, right? It's mostly within 1 arc second, so that's fine for me. And then we're exposing 300 seconds there, so it's just a matter of waiting for that exposure to be done while I'm playing around with the widgets, just like we saw a moment ago. And you can play to add the star SNR, you can play to add the star mass, so if you can see large changes there, it's something to keep track of. And you can switch to the scatter diagram directly in there, right? So it's very well built as a UI overall, despite some of the nitpicks that I have. Okay, and now we're almost with our first 5-minute exposures done. The guiding has gotten better over time, which is always nice to see. We're downloading the image, and then we'll see the result of that first exposure. And then just spoiler alert, I let it go through the entire plan, and it just worked. No issues whatsoever. And there we go, we have the first exposure. The one issue, and something that I hope they're going to add, because I added exactly that kind of feature in N.I.N.A a long time ago to avoid exactly such issues, but you can see this image is very noisy. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that's because I had forgotten to turn on the camera cooling. So it would be nice if there was an option to either cool the camera automatically upon connection, just like the ASIAIR, or when I start the plan, a little warning, like a pre-planned checklist, which is what I had initially implemented in N.I.N.A, to tell me like, hey, your camera cooling is not on. Are you sure that's right? And that would have been nice. So I kind of wasted the night because I forgot to turn on the cooler. And that's an area where you can have some interface improvements to catch on human mistakes. But overall, I think it was a very positive experience there with the new interface for the StellaVita. And overall, it really brings the question, should you buy a StellaVita from TaupeTech? The StellaVita, I'll have the link down in the description, but it's around $340 US. So it's not really, whereas the ASIAIR Plus, the direct competitor really to the StellaVita, but that has a few more features like variable voltage, like power management control, whatever we call it, on the DC ports out, whereas the StellaVita is just on and off. And it also has better Wi-Fi, better connectivity, and more internal storage. Despite all of that, the ASIAIR manages to be cheaper at $300 US. Right? So this is if you're using only ASI. So if you're using only ZWO cameras and you're fine with only like ZWO focusers, ZWO rotators, ZWO filter wheel, and you're fine with not having like really proper like flip-flap panel support, that kind of stuff, then go for the ASIAIR. But otherwise, if you want to have your options open, to have the ability to use cheaper cameras, even though they have the same sensor and the same capabilities as ZWO, if you want to have the ability to use cheaper focusers, like the Gemini EAF, that's dirt cheap and works well, or the TaupeTech EAF, both are cheaper than the ZWO EAF-N, but you cannot use them if you're using the ASIAIR. So that's where those $30, $40 difference between the two products, they can quickly add up. Because if you're buying an APS-C size camera for $500 less than another, but it's for all intents and purposes the same camera, you've saved more than the price of the StellaVita in and of itself, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I would say though, the StellaVita, despite having like pretty good connection overall for me, it still doesn't have as strong a connection as something like the ASIAIR Plus. It really reminds me of the ASIAIR Pro. Was it the Pro that had a bad? I think the Pro had a really bad connection. And it's kind of the same with the StellaVita, although as you saw from my PC, the connection was not bad at all. And we are 2 floors down from the Astro Station. And even, I also tried another connection method from the PC, connecting directly to the hotspot of the StellaVita and disconnecting my network cable from the PC. And still, the connection was very, very fast. So sometimes I'm wondering, like, is the problem somehow with my phone? Or is the StellaVita using like the wrong Wi-Fi channels? Do they go for a Wi-Fi channel that's very crowded? Is there something you can do to fix it? I have no idea, because this is very weird, and it makes me wonder if the wireless is fixable. It's still usable in my opinion, but other people have had worse experience, like Lucomatico. So maybe in the future there will be a StellaVita version 2 that you may want to wait for, but otherwise, if you have other equipment than ZWO, it's definitely something to keep in mind as a possibility. That said, there are other potential competitors, like I showed it earlier, this guy here, Raspberry Pi, Linux, N.I.N.A, SV241 basic from SVBony, and all of this controllable by smartphone, including, like, I think domes and flip-flap panels as well. So there's other options. If you're willing to go a bit more DIY, I'll be covering that in a future video. So again, don't forget to subscribe to not miss it. While you're there, like the video, it will help the channel out. And you can also leave a comment, let us know what you think of this new software of the StellaVita. Does that look like something that you want to try out? I do think they've made a huge amount of progress, including in terms of firmware updates. Firmware updates used to be a pain in the butt. Now it's much, much better with the new version 2.0. So credit where it is due. TopeTech, you did a really good job with the new version of the software. I still have nitpicks, but this is a really, really big improvement, and congrats on making it possible. Thank you for that work. Yeah, so again, let me know down in the comments, and if you want to support the channel even more and you're planning on buying anything from TopeTech, from Akin, from High Point Scientific, or even non-Astro stuff from Amazon, if you do so after clicking one of the links that I have down in the description, it will help me out at no cost to you. If you want to support the channel directly, really become a sponsor of the channel, a VIP member, you can join the channel as a member. It's the join button next to the subscribe button, or you can join my Patreon. The link is down in the description. You guys, you make all of this possible, including buying a Raspberry Pi 5 just for experimenting with N.I.N.A on Linux. We're really weird stuff. Thank you so much for your support. It's thanks to your generosity that this whole channel is possible. So with that, I hope this was enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, whenever you can, to look up at the stars, and I'll see you next time.